This shit is so surreal. Am I on drugs?
After a savage duel, it cut me deeply. No foe had ever done that before, and with blood filling my mouth, I fell. I, Cato Sicarius, Master of the Watch, Knight Champion of Macragge, Grand Duke of Talisar, and High Suzerain of Ultramar, fell. Or so my foe believed! In truth, I, Cato Sicarius, allowed the Undying to strike me down in order to feign defeat that he might lower his defense, and I, Cato Sicarius, may pierce his evil metal hide with the greatest of all weapons, my beloved Talisarian Tempest Blade. Dear Agrippin came bolting over to help, but there was no need, for I, Cato Sicarius, had already begun to heal from such a paltry wound. More Necrons came to challenge. I, Cato Sicarius, leapt at my first new foe, crushing him underfoot before executing a tactical somersault and beheading 4 more with a single stroke. Gracefully, I, Cato Sicarius, carved through waves of vile metal to reach the abominable monolith, running up its walls with speed and deftness. Inside, I, Cato Sicarius, single-handedly tore through the enemy's ranks before exploding the monolith from the inside. When the smoke cleared, the Astartes around me cheered, for I, Cato Sicarius, had saved the planet of Damnos from a bleak fate. The people thanked me, but the celebration was short-lived, for suddenly ships appeared in the skies overhead. Eldar! I shouted, shaking my fist in anger. A sneak attack while we were preoccupied with the Necrons! How sneaky! But they were, of course, of no matter, for I, Cato Sicarius, struck them down as they landed, boarded their ships, and slew their crew, taking great pride in personally blowing up their ships. As I, Cato Sicarius, returned to the planet victorious, I, Cato Sicarius, saw something shocking. The ground was suddenly crawling with greenskins. Foul orcs. I, Cato Sicarius, landed in a sea of green and immediately began carving my way through the putreficient beasts. Even their hideous machines were of no match. I, Cato Sicarius, slew them all with ease. But just as I, Cato Sicarius, approached their war boss to end the fight once and for all, I, Cato Sicarius, found myself surrounded by bodies of blue and gold. A sneak attack by the Tau! They had allied themselves with the orcs! Foul Xenos scum banding together in wretched cooperation! But no unholy union could possibly best the greatest of them all, and with a mighty roar, I, Cato Sicarius, laid the beasts low. The cowardly azure creatures tried to snipe me with their wicked snipers, but their blasts were pitiful and weak like them. With great ease, I, Cato Sicarius, cut them down, mocking their pathetic attempts at subterfuge and trickery. Speaking of subterfuge and trickery, before returning to Damnos, I, Cato Sicarius, landed on a dark Eldar ship. Its vile, voluptuous vixens attempted to seduce me, moaning and purring and grinding their filthy pale bodies against my armor. But it was of no use, for I, Cato Sicarius, am above such icky things, and I, Cato Sicarius, slew them all with ease. They tried their miserable sneak attacks, but my armor was far too tough for their miserable blades, and they died the miserable deaths they deserved. After I, Cato Sicarius, destroyed the discomfiting blue and green menace, I, Cato Sicarius, returned to the city where a great celebration was held in my honor. The people declared the day of my grand victory as Cato Sicarius Day, and I, Cato Sicarius, was awarded the title Grand Lord Almighty of Damnos. But right in the middle of the celebratory parade, with lots of floats and balloons, a great rift appeared in the sky. The chapter master said that he was going to explore it to see what was going on, and told me and my men to come along with him. So we did, but we got too close and were sucked inside. Immediately I, Cato Sicarius, knew where we were. We were inside the warp, and more importantly, we had landed in the dominion of Nurgle, the god of disease. Unfortunately, the chapter master's hearts could not take the malputresified sights and smells of Nurgle's realm, and he suffered a heart attack and died. But before he did, he named me as his successor, and so I, Cato Sicarius, Master of the Watch, Knight Champion of Macragge, Grand Duke of Talisar, High Suzerain of Ultramar, and Grand Lord Almighty of Damnos, became Chapter Master of the Ultramarines. As my first order of business, I, Cato Sicarius, decided to strike deep into the heart of Nurgle's land. I, Cato Sicarius, sliced and diced my way through the rotting gardens until I, Cato Sicarius, reached the filthumorous Lord of Pestilence himself. He attempted to speak, but his words came out as burbles and spurts as I, Cato Sicarius, sliced into one of his many neck folds and decapitated him in a spray of blood and various other fluids. From another room, a woman entered, tall and lithe and graceful.
"Thank you, fair champion,"
she spoke.
"For your brave and daring rescue of me, I, Isha, Eldar Goddess of Healing, pledge myself to you for all of eternity."
But I, Cato Sicarius, of course knew this was a foul Xenos trick, and I, Cato Sicarius, cleft the harlot in twain. Before me, a fiery portal appeared, and I, Cato Sicarius, entered. Immediately I, Cato Sicarius, was faced with Khorne, Chaos God of War. Of course, he was foolish enough to challenge me to single combat. I, Cato Sicarius, would admit he put up a valiant effort, but Chaos deserves no compliments, and so I, Cato Sicarius, summoned my strength into the greatest coup de grace the world has ever known, and struck him down. Next, I entered the realm of Tzeentch, Lord of Change, but he was a weakling, and I, Cato Sicarius, broke him over my knee with ease. Finally, I, Cato Sicarius, reached the most twisted land of all, the realm of Slaanesh, Prince of Pleasure. Immediately I, Cato Sicarius, was beset by sweating, naked, panting bodies attempting to slow me down and force food and drink into my helmet, but I, Cato Sicarius, trudged on. The smell of sexual activity was heavy in the air, but no amount of pervosity could stop me from my goal. After hours of wading through flesh and fluids, I, Cato Sicarius, reached the palace of Slaanesh. Inside, the being gazed at me with intense desire, as though it wished to tear my armor to shreds and claim me as its prize. Finally, it spoke.
"Welcome, you delicious piece of Astartes, you,"
it mewed.
"I'll bet you're looking for a fight. Then you'll have one, you lovely little blue morsel. I challenge you to a dance-off!"
It stood up and began gyrating and gesticulating in ways I'd not before seen. It thrusted and humped and slid and twirled and gallivanted until it was a sweating, panting wreck.
"Okay, your turn,"
it gasped. Little did it know that I, Cato Sicarius, had been trained in the arts of dance since I, Cato Sicarius, was but a babe. I, Cato Sicarius, launched into galloping horseman style, and Slaanesh gasped loudly. From there, I, Cato Sicarius, allowed my upper body to hang loose, swaying to and fro, and Slaanesh began to tremble. For the grand finale, I executed a pirouette, followed by a backward slide, and finally gave a mighty finishing pose, tucking my face into the crook of my elbow and extending the other behind me. Before me, Slaanesh wept.
"Take my life, you magnificent, prancing stallion! I cannot live after seeing such a marvelous display!"
And I, Cato Sicarius, did, carving its behaired head from its shoulders. With that, I, Cato Sicarius, returned to Damnos. I, Cato Sicarius, was immediately greeted by a brilliant golden image. It was the Emperor of Mankind himself. "Hello, Cato Sicarius," he spoke, his voice majestic and booming. "It is I, the Emperor of Mankind. I have heard of your deeds this day, and have judged you worthy of leading the Imperium in my stead. I am losing my grip on this mortal coil, and can see no more worthy successor in all the galaxy than you. Take my power, and with it lead mankind into a glorious new age." Suddenly I, Cato Sicarius, was warped to Terra, and I, Cato Sicarius, was wearing a new set of glittering golden armor. The Emperor had willingly passed on, and I, Cato Sicarius, Master of the Watch, Knight Champion of Macragge, Grand Duke of Talisar, High Suzerain of Ultramar,
Grand Lord Almighty of Damnos, and Chapter Master of the Ultramarines, became the Emperor of Mankind before returning to space once more to finish off the rest of the foul Xenos and their gods. The end! My masterpiece is complete! Now, to finish the binding...
LOL no, your literary submission has been rejected.